Right, so welcome to our local advocacy training. My name is Desirrae Thomas. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the local campaign manager at Amplify. The purpose of this call today is to give folks just some background information about our local work. We just released a local RJ policy agenda, which we're hoping can serve as a roadmap for local elected officials to enact some RJ policy on the local level. Really giving folks guidance on how to give public testimony, how to plan an advocacy or lobby day, how to get in touch with your local legislators. And at the end, we're going to talk about a toolkit, which I will be sending out next week, that will help empower folks to maybe host their own lobby day in places that we are not currently doing that. And so, just to give you an idea of what we'll be talking about today, we'll be doing a quick overview of our local RJ policy agenda. We'll be talking about how you can connect with your local officials. I know that a lot of people are like, I know that I have a city council person and a county commissioner, but I'm not sure who that person is, and I'm not sure exactly how you find them. So we're going to talk about how you do that. Go through some advocacy and public comment 101. We are going to do a breakout session, which again, I know some of you have been on Amplify calls before, and I say this every time. These are not like scary breakouts. We're all friends here. This is a nice, welcoming, lovely space. But in this breakout room, we're going to practice giving a public comment. I will talk to you about what will be in that toolkit that I'll be sending out next week. And then making sure that there's space for questions at the end. But if you have any questions throughout, you can drop them in the chat. I can see the chat. Or you can come off mic and ask your question. Does anybody have any questions about that? Cool. So our goals for today, to learn about the local RJ policy agenda, to give guidance about giving public testimony, about lobby days, about connecting with local legislators, and to give you the information about the toolkit that'll help you host your own lobby day if you don't live somewhere where we're doing that already. And so going into the local RJ policy agenda. So overview and context, earlier this year, back in January, we released a state RJ policy agenda that is kind of a roadmap for state legislators, some of the things that we would like to see happen on the state level as far as abortion access and reproductive justice is concerned. And I realized that we had never done something like that on the local level. Like we had never put together a list of policies that we would like to see enacted on the local level. And as we're talking to local legislators, you often hear things like, I don't know what you want me to do about reproductive justice. The state has banned abortion. I don't know what y'all want me to do about abortion. I'm a city council person. I am a county commissioner. Like, I'm not sure what you want me to do. And so as a result of that, I'm like, I would love to put together something for you to tell you exactly what I would like you to do. And so we spent some time building out just a plan for what local legislators can do. And we think this is super important to do right now as we grow, increasingly hostile on the federal level within the federal government. The state government moves very slowly and is not really, engaged with reproductive justice in a way that we would like to see all the time. I think that local government presents an opportunity that we are not super taking advantage of right now. I think as like a progressive movement, but as an RJ movement specifically, right? Like things can happen a lot faster on the state level than they can, or on the local level than they can on the state level or at the federal level. So if we introduce a policy in a locality today, that policy could be enacted within a few months with the right pressure and the right energy. But there is nothing stopping that from happening. And unlike the state government, which only meets, or the legislature, which only meets, for 40 days at the top of the year between about January and the very beginning of April, local officials are meeting year round. They're having meetings every 2 weeks. They take a few weeks off here and there, but for the most part, they're really consistent about having their meetings, about doing their business, and about when legislation can be introduced. And so it does open up a lot more possibility for us to get things done outside of just having the specific time frame at the top of the year. And so it feels really, really timely about, presenting this, about opening up these opportunities on the local level for folks. And I think people do have a lot of anxiety about what's going on in the world, right? Like there is so much happening every day. Like you open up Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or whatever, and you're just inundated with like the worst thing you've ever seen in your life every single day. And that can feel really overwhelming. And I know that folks are searching for a way to make change and to feel like they're making a difference and to feel like they've done something. And I think local government and local government advocacy is the way to do that right now. I think that, showing up to your county commission and saying, look, you need to do this, showing up to your city council and saying, I expect this from you, is a way to do something and to make change in your community, and to kind of fight back against some of the harms that we're seeing done, globally in the United States, in Georgia, et cetera. Like, I think that this is a way to combat that and to really do something to actively make an impact in people's lives in our community right now. And so, our local RJ policy agenda is broken down into three sections: our bodies, our families, and our communities. And each section has issues that relate to that, relate to our bodies, relate to our families, and our communities. And each one of these is associated with a change goal and with a policy that people, government officials, can enact. And so those range from things like abortion, contraception, menstrual equity, non discrimination, regulating fake clinics, increasing access to childcare. And all of them also have some kind of like policy proposal or example legislation. So some of these things have been done in Georgia already. Some of these have been done in other places, but there is legislation out there that is replicable that people can take a look at, and legislators can be like, I want to do something like this where I live and where I work. And so I'm actually going to pull it up and show you. George has put links in the chat, and I'll be sure to share those afterward as well. But I want to give you an idea of what it looks like. And so you can find our local RJ agenda in a couple of places. Can y'all still see my screen? Yeah, I think I shared the whole thing. Thumbs up. Yep, perfect. Thank you. So yeah, so here is what it looks like on Amplify's website. If you go to amplify-ga.org and click on our work and go to agendas, there are two that pop up, state and the local. We're talking about the local one today. And so that's here. And so it gives you some of the context about what we're doing and why we're doing it, why we need local government, what their role is, some lovely artwork here. And then it goes down into the policy roadmap. So here are the things that are under our bodies. And if you click on, for example, abortion access, it has policies and campaigns that they can do. Here's those pieces of example legislation that they can click on those links and be taken to some example legislation. And we have those for a variety of things. So contraception, government, regulating fake clinics, comprehensive sex ed, childcare, improving community safety beyond incarceration. So just like a wide range of things. And we also have another version, which George also dropped in the chat for us, that's just a little bit more interactive. And so when you come to this one, I told you homegrown RJ is kind of the theme that we're going with. We're talking about, RJ that starts in like our backyards, right? And we are nurturing this and we are growing this movement from the kitchen table to the town hall. And so it gives, again, that context why this is the moment for local government. And then you scroll down and it does have this artwork, which I think is lovely. Talks about our vision, and then goes into some of those same pieces of, these are our policy proposals, our change goals, still has access to those same links and things. And so taking us back to our slideshow, I want to check in with you and to see if anybody has any questions about those agendas. We're going to give you some time later on in the call to kind of look through them a little bit more. But I wanted to see if any of this has brought up any questions for anyone so far. Cool. If anything comes up, please let me know. But I'm going to move us forward. And so the purpose of this agenda and the reason that we're putting it out is so that people can, take it to their local government officials. This isn't just something that we want to like live on our website and we want to share with all of you. We want it to be actionable. We want to talk to government officials about like what we want them to do, right? And for us to do that, we need you to connect with your local officials. We need you to figure out who those people are, to send them emails, because they respond much better to constituent emails than they do to my emails. Because I sent out this policy agenda document in PDF form and with the links to our lovely websites to local government officials, city council people, mayors, county commissioners, county commission chair people in 15 localities across Georgia. So all of the metro Atlanta counties, um, Albany, Augusta, Macon, Savannah, Columbus, Athens. And so, not the whole state. We have 159 counties. I'm one person. But y'all are not one person. You individually are one person, but like as a collective, we have folks across the state. And so we want to make sure that you're able to figure out, where you live, how to find out who your local officials are so that you can send this to them, so that you're able to make that connection in a place that maybe I don't know about or, am not familiar with, and you want to make change in your community. I want to make sure that you feel empowered to do that. And so I'm actually going to show you the Secretary of State's My Voter page. It's SOS for Georgia Secretary of State MVP. So the My Voter page, mvp.sos.ga.gov. And so this My Voter page is where you can go to find out like what districts do you live in. And I'm not just talking about on the local level, but like state level as well. Taking us back to our slides. And so from there, you can go to your city or your county website and find out who represents your district. And that's another thing you can just put in Google. You can like Google your county. Like I'm from Valdosta, that's Lowndes County. So I can look up Lowndes County Commission, Valdosta City Council, and figure out from there who are the people who represent me there. And so, how do you get in contact with them? This is something that I think a lot of people feel some intimidation around, but you really shouldn't. You can get in contact with your elected official by sending them an email or doing a phone call, leaving them a message. Usually, when you go to the county or city website and you find out who your representative is, you can click on their bio or their name or whatever. And normally on there, their office phone number pops up, their email address pops up. Sometimes you'll even get the email or phone number of a staff member, like their chief of staff or somebody that works in their office, like doing constituent services or what have you. And so you can use those things to send them emails. They check them probably and then, respond to your email, respond to your phone call. And that is the best way to get in contact with them outside of like meeting them in person. And so we have had folks who have sent the RJ agenda via email to their county commissioner, to their city council person, and then call their office and say, hey, I sent this to you. And that's something I really encourage doing a couple of touch points and letting them know I sent you this email. I hope that you look at it. I'm also leaving you this message. I'm also leaving a message with your staff member to let them know that this is something that I want you to take action on. And this is something that is in your inbox. And occasionally you'll get in contact with them and they'll be like, hey, actually, Desirrae, I'm not seeing this in my inbox. Don't worry about that. I'll bump it back up for you. I will send it to you as many times as you need to make sure that you're able to take action. And so that is typically how you can get in contact with them. And so if you are reaching out to them about the RJ agenda specifically, I recommend that you find an issue or a couple of issues from that agenda that, really speak to you. You're like, yeah, absolutely, you need to take action on this. I had a baby last year. I am like really radicalized around the need for like expanded parental leave. I think that people should be able to spend as much time with their child after they have that baby or adopt a baby or what have you. I think they should have as much time as they need to bond with that child. Or for family leave, if you have a sick family member for whom you are the caretaker, you should be able to care for that person and take as much time as you need to, right? A few years ago, the state government expanded parental leave on the state level to 3 weeks, which is not a lot of time, right? And so I think that localities, if you work for the city of Atlanta, for example, or Fulton County, I think that that locality should be able to expand parental leave within that county, um, or that city. I think that they should be able to do that. And so I would send an email to the person who is my commissioner, to like Marvin Arrington Jr., and say, hey, I think you should be expanding parental leave. Here's an RJ agenda with some example legislation of other localities that have done that. Please take a look at that. I would love to talk with you more about that. And so, yeah, find a couple issues in there that maybe like speak to you and you would like to see, action taken on in your locality. And then, yeah, have them act upon that, hopefully. And so I want to take a pause and see if anyone has any questions.
Desiree, this is Cassandra.
Hi
I
there.
don't have a question. Hey, I don't have a question, but this is great information. So on my end, I'm just absorbing it so that I can, and hopefully we'll get the meeting notes on this because I'm
For
trying to
sure.
save every link that you're giving me. So I'm just thankful. But I just want to tell you I'm listening, but I'm not saying anything. I'm just trying to get the information.
No, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And yes, absolutely. I'm going to send a follow-up email after this. It'll probably be next week, because I want to make sure I have everything together in like a really clear format. And so I will send out all these links to the RJ agenda, to the My Voter page, and kind of have a walkthrough of making sure that you know like how to find who your elected officials are and all of that kind of stuff. So I'll make sure that's in there. I'll also link to this recording in that, so that you can go back and reference it later, if you need it. And so thank you so much. And I'm really glad that you're able to make it. Does anybody else have any questions or comments or anything before we move forward? Cool. Let me find my mouse. Here we go. All right. So moving into our advocacy section, because that is what you're here for, right? A training on like, how do I do advocacy on the local level? You can like raise your hand via Zoom or put in the chat who has done any kind of like government advocacy before on any level. Like who's gone to like the Capitol or reached out to your, senator or your county commissioner or your, anything, who's like engaged in advocacy that way before. I see a few people have. Okay, cool. If this is your first time, I want to like emphasize that like this can feel very intimidating. You're like, this is a government official, and I'm like one person. And I really want to like demystify that for you. Advocacy is simply going to elected officials and asking for or demanding action or inaction, on certain issues or policies. And so, you know, telling them this is something that is important to me, this is something that is important to my community, and I think you should be doing this about that. That is what advocacy is. And I think there are many ways that you can do that. And we've talked about some of them, like sending them emails, sending them phone calls, going to a meeting in person. Um, and I think that, for a lot of people, like I said, it just feels intimidating to do. Like, this is a person that you voted for, and like they're important. And like, I just want to emphasize to you that you are too. And the needs that you have and the needs that your community have are important and valid. And the reason that we elected these people is so that they can like serve us, right? So that they can do things that are improving our lives, improving the lives of our kids and our friends and our community, our neighbors. And so, like, that's their job. It is their job to listen to what you have to say. And it's their job to like do things to improve the conditions that we live in. And so, one of the ways that you can do that advocacy is by going to a county commission meeting or a city council meeting, or depending on like what it is, like a planning department or zoning department or school board meeting. and giving a public comment. And so at some of those meetings, people are able to voice their opinions on things that are happening in your district, county, city, as well as some of the issues or policies that that body may be considering. And so if any of you have gone to like a state level like hearing, sometimes you're able to give public comment at those. It's a very similar process. I know that a lot of people who are like engaged with nonprofits and stuff maybe have gone to like an advocacy day or a lobby day at the Capitol, and this is a very similar thing. um, they'll have like a sign up sheet oftentimes that you can use to sign up to give a comment. That sign up sheet is normally like asking for your name, your address if you live in that if you live in that city or live in that county. Um, yeah, I think that those are some of the more common ways. I went to a meeting this week that didn't have a sign up. They were just like, if you feel so called to get up here and speak, you can do that. And so that does happen sometimes too. And so there's different ways that it's done. But I'd normally recommend showing up a little early to meetings so that you're able to sign up if you need to sign up. I see in the comments here, whenever I talk to these folks, I mentally say to them, mentally, you're a person and I'm a person too. And to remind yourself that you're not audacious for being a part of the civic process. And that's so true. That's something that I say a lot. If you've been to one of the community calls or like engaged with me on advocacy on things, I say it all the time. These are people. These are simply people. And I think that it can feel like intimidating, right? If you're talking to like a US senator, like that is like a big job, right? And like I would probably feel intimidated talking to like Senator Warnock or Senator Ossoff or somebody too. But we are talking about local advocacy. These are city council people, county commissioners, even the mayor. They live in the same city as you. Their kids probably go to the same schools that your kids do, go to the same church or temple. Like they probably play rec league soccer and go to the same parks on the weekend. You might see them walking along the Beltline or whatever. Like these are people, like you can bump into the county commissioner at Kroger. And so, like, these are, the level of government that is closest to us. And these people live lives that are the most similar to ours, right? And so, it is a job. It's an important job, but it's also something that we voted for them to be in. And so, I think it's important to kind of demystify it and be like, yeah, you are simply a person, and we are here to talk to you person to person. Yes, I am up here speaking to you on a dais and I'm standing up at a podium, but none of that is the important part. The important part is I'm speaking to you, someone I voted for, someone who represents me and represents my community, on like a person to person level. And so that is what a public comment is. You stand up in front of a podium and you talk for a couple minutes about the thing that you're there to talk about. And they sit there and listen a lot of the time. We can get into some of that later. And so just continuing on the like, how does one give public comment? Usually each person can give about 2 to 3 minutes of testimony. And so in most places, you can say what you like, how you would like. They don't super tone police you. You shouldn't do things like get up there and like be profane or threaten people. But other than that, you can use that time to talk about what you want to talk about. I have heard people talk about things from like, there should be a stop sign at this intersection, or this business opened up and we thought it was just going to be a store, but it turns out, or a restaurant, it turns out it's a nightclub. And I don't like that it's a nightclub. That happened this week. Um, During different social movements, you hear people getting up and speaking about that. When Stop Cop City was going on, there are people that was coming to every single Atlanta City Council meeting and being like, you need to make sure that we, the people, get a vote on this issue. And so people talk about all sorts of things, from like the very small, I think we need a stoplight here, or I think that y'all should better fund the library, to really big issues like, what is going on with policing in my city. So I think that it's a range of things. But you get about 2 to 3 minutes. You only get to speak once per meeting, and you get to talk about what you want to talk about. And so public comment is usually one part of the meeting. Other things that happen at city council or county commission meetings, normally at the beginning of the meeting, They'll do things called proclamations. And they do some version of this everywhere where they like honor people from the community. So, like different organizations, like your Girl Scout troop, so the most cookies in the country. You go down to the county commission and we're going to like commemorate that. We're going to give you like a proclamation and we're going to take some photos. So that normally happens everywhere. It takes a while. It can definitely take a while. But I think it's really nice to see like what's going on in your community, who's being honored. At a commission meeting I went to recently, they honored like the sanitation workers, and I think that's great. Those people do a really hard job, and so that is normally a pretty lengthy part of each meeting. Fulton counties go really long. They do a lot of proclamations. Um, Proclamations, announcements, so different things that they want to announce, like from each district. In Gwinnett County, they go district by district, like District 1 Commissioner, what do you have to say about what's going on? District 2 Commissioner, do it for all of the commissioners. So that'll happen. They can talk about the business that they have to talk about today, like we're going to be doing this, this, and this. They can debate legislation. And so, if different bills, resolutions, ordinances come up for debate, they can talk about that. When it's budget season, they normally spend a lot of time talking about the budget. Talk to government employees or experts. So, like if they're talking about the budget, the CFO may come to talk, or like if they're talking about, enacting some kind of environmental legislation or water legislation, they may have someone from the environmental or watershed department come and speak. And so that happens as well. Typically, typically public comment happens either like right after the proclamations and announcements, or at the very end of the meeting. It just depends on where you are. They either start with it or end with it, and it just depends. I think it can be a good thing sometimes for them to begin with it. Let's just go ahead and run through that. But if it goes at the end, then you really get a chance to see like what your government in action looks like, which I think can be really powerful to like sit at a county commission meeting, hear the kinds of things they're talking about, see the kinds of people that are showing up, and really see what it looks like for your government to operate. I think it's important that people do that. Oftentimes, these meetings are live streamed. So you can, like, if you live in DeKalb County, they put it on DCTV, DeKalb County Television. They normally post the link online for you to watch later. Public comments typically are recorded, and so that is something to consider as well. In some places, they want you to say your address. You can typically get away with not doing that and like saying, I live in this zip code or I live in this district. Um, but yeah, that is typically how that goes. It just depends on where you are, what your locality is, as to what part of the meeting they do the public comment. And so I have been talking a lot about having an advocacy day, and having people come down like as a group to a county commission or a city council meeting. I think some of you probably have done this on the state level before. Lots of organizations during legislative session will have some kind of advocacy day, where they take you to the Capitol. You probably have a conversation about what they're advocating for that day or advocating against that day. And then they'll probably try to set it up to where you can write a thing, one of those little cards that asks your legislator to come to the ropes, to speak with you. And so we are hoping to do something very similar on the city and the county level. Um, and so we'll go to a commission meeting or a council meeting and we'll give comments about the agenda, and what actions we would like to let the legislators to take on the agenda. Ideally, we will also be able to help folks set up one-on-one meetings with their legislators to discuss how you want to see them improving reproductive justice where you live. Um, Hmm. I think that it can be hard to do that sometimes. Some of these commissioners and council people can be a little hesitant to take meetings, um, which I don't like because I think it is their job. But I'm going to do my absolute best to set us up to be able to have one on one meetings, even if it's like as a group, right? Like, even if it's like, all right, the three of you live in District 5, let's all go talk to the District 5 commissioner. And so that's the goal, is for us to be able to meet one on one with them. I think it's a little bit easier to not just like hold their attention, but to like emphasize the importance of your issue if you're able to do it on that one on one level. And so I'm really hoping that we can do that with at least a few of them. And so what'll happen is we will figure out what time these meetings are. Sometimes a thing that I can find inconvenient is that sometimes they're during the day, right? Like some of them will meet at like 2 p.m. But that is, I think, more common on the state level. Um, on the commission and city council level, a lot of them are in the evening times. A lot of the commissioners and city council people, a lot of times it's not like a full-time job and they have other jobs too, like they have a 9 to 5. And so a lot of times those meetings will be at like 6 in the evening, 7 in the evening. And so we will all gather up. If the meeting starts at like 6 o'clock, we'll all meet up outside the building at 5:30. We'll go in, we'll sign up for our comments. If we're able to connect with the legislator beforehand, I'll let you know that because we may need to meet earlier to do that. I'm hoping that we can have some nice swag for us to like all wear matching shirts and to have like our stickers and pins and clipboards and like all that stuff. And to have one pagers that we can give to the legislators that is like a physical copy of the agenda that we can like hand to them to be like, please familiarize yourself with this thing. And I would love to talk with you more about that. And so that is what we will do. And then we'll hang out and watch the meeting, see how that goes. And yeah, I think it'll be a really good time. I think it can be really rewarding to see how your government works, to see what your government looks like in action. Does anybody have any questions about giving public comment or like what an advocacy day can look like? Or even how a city council or county commission operates. I realize I didn't talk much about that, but I'll be happy to answer any questions about that too.
I have a question that maybe I think is related to that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about, when we're talking about like, there's the policy agenda that has the like particular like goals that are
Mm-hmm.
set up for Georgia. And I'm curious what um, how folks can be more aware of, engaged with the direct, like the actual landscape of what is happening in their city and county, like how they can do that assessment, how they can be in the relationships so that when
Yeah.
an advocacy day is the goal, like how are we
Mm-hmm.
working with the folks local in our community to actually know what is it we're actually advocating for in that space?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think that one of the ways we can do that is connecting you with organizations that are doing work in those places. A lot of our partner organizations at Amplify, we are a collaborative that is made up of different organizations, and a lot of our orgs are doing organizing work in different places. And so, connecting with organizations from those places to kind of get an idea of like what's going on there, right? Like, I don't live in Macon, for example, but I know that our friends at Middle Georgia for Choice are doing work on repro issues in Middle Georgia. And so connecting you with them to help figure out, what's the landscape looking like what feels feasible, right, to be asking for in Macon right now. Or what has already been done so that we don't have to ask for it there. So that's one of the ways. I really encourage people to see if your county commissioner or city council person is active on social media. If you are a person that's active on social media, typically they will at least have a Facebook account or an Instagram that is, slightly maintained, or a district website, because many of them will have a district website. Sign up for their newsletter if you can too, because I think those are really helpful in figuring out what they see as being the important issues like in your district where you live. And I think that that really can give you an idea of like, okay, so he thinks that this is important, but that's actually fine. And what I think he needs to be focused on is this. And I think that that can really help address, kind of like you were talking about, just really help hit the points of, you know, this is where I think the direction of this conversation needs to go. Of course, yeah. Does anybody else have any questions there? Cool. I will move us forward to our breakout session. I think that this will be fun. Um, we're going to practice making public comments. And so for a few minutes, I'm going to give you time to review the local RJ agenda with those links that George shared earlier. And we can share those again and just take a minute to review the local RJ policy agenda and pick out a couple issues that feel important to you and something that your local electeds where you live should be focused on acting on acting on right now. And so in pairs or in small groups, we're going to take turns talking, advocating for your issue as if you are speaking at a county commission or city council meeting. You can use a timer to time it for 2 minutes, which is typically about the amount of time people have to give a comment at these meetings. And after you've both gotten a chance to speak, take turns giving each other feedback and talking about how that process felt to you. And I want you to think about what you would need to feel comfortable doing that at an actual public meeting. Because I think it's one thing for us to practice and kind of get comfortable in this space doing that. But I also know that, you might be a person that's like, I get stage fright, and it would be helpful for me if I knew that you would be there to do it with me, or if I was able to wear some in person. And so take some time. Let's take maybe 3 or 4 minutes to go through the local policy agenda on your own, and to pick out an issue that feels, relevant for you and start thinking about why that is. Because at the crux of it, right, that is what you're going to get up and talk about. Um, like, I think that it's important for cities and counties to fund abortion because this. I think it's important that counties should be, doing more to talk about, contraception in their counties or whatever it might be. It's, I can't give you a script for that. I can't tell you why you think that that's important. Um, but you know why you think that's important. And that's what you should be talking to your commissioner or your council person about. It doesn't have to be a super formal speech. It really is just you getting up there and saying, hey, this is something that I think would benefit our community, and this is why I think you should be doing something about it, and this is what I think you should do about it. And so take a few minutes and kind of review that on your own, look through it. If you don't know who your council person or your city council person or commissioner is, um, you can also look that up um, at the link for the Secretary of State, which George also put in the chat earlier, that My Voter page. And so I'm going to stop talking to you for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll come back together, and we'll go into our breakout rooms. Does that sound good to everybody? Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, I'm seeing thumbs up. Cool. So take a few minutes. If you need me, just holler or put it in the chat. But we're going to take a pause for a second for you to have some time to review. Back up. We're good. Cool. So I'm glad that that was a really productive breakout session. Um, and so, yeah, I talked some about it, that we're hoping to do lobby days or advocacy days in some places around Metro Atlanta. I live in Metro Atlanta. I can drive to places around Metro Atlanta. I also have a small child that I typically like to see at some point during the day. And so we're going to be trying to do advocacy days in some of these places that are really accessible for some of the Amplify team. With that being said, though, all of Georgia is not Atlanta. I say that all the time. I am from the parts of Georgia that aren't Atlanta. I went to college in the parts of Georgia that aren't Atlanta. And I know that there is work to be done in the parts of Georgia that aren't Atlanta. And lots of you live in those places. And so we want to make sure that the people who live in places that I am not can still have an advocacy day, are still able to go to meetings and give public comments, are able to meet one-on-one with their commissioners or with their council people. Because I don't have to be there for you to make change in your community. That happens every day without me. And so I am hoping that we can put together this toolkit that will be useful for you to be able to kind of facilitate some of that happening in your community. And so the purpose of it is to empower you to engage in advocacy in your locality. It'll have information in there about the RJ policy agenda and how you can use it in your advocacy. Information, again, like how to find out what districts you live in and find who represents you on the local level, how to connect with local representatives, how to give comment at public meetings, like we've been talking about, and what a lobby day is and how you can host one in your city or county. And so, what if you want to host a lobby day in your locality? How can Amplify support you? Because, yeah, I am here to support you. I'm not just going to be like, here's this toolkit, girl. I hope that you have a great time down to the county commission. I really want to support you in doing this because I know it can be super intimidating trying to like bring together people in your community and like do a thing. It is a part of my job that I still feel a lot of anxiety about. Like, I want people to have a good time doing the thing, right? And so I want to make sure that we're able to work together to make sure that it's successful and to make sure that that process isn't, too overwhelming for you. And so I can support you in figuring out when it'll be a good time to have a lobby day. It is local election season in a lot of these places. And so I think that this fall is a great time to host a lobby day. Um, to tell them we are voters and we care about what you're doing, and pretty much just like that, Amplifies a C3. That's pretty much all I have for them. I am a voter and I want to make sure that I am voting for someone who has my best interest at heart. I'm here to tell you what my interest is so that you can take it to heart, just like that. And so making sure that you have the materials that you need. So you have one pages that you're able to hand out to folks, that you have all of the, like, we're hoping to get some t-shirts and stuff. Me and Crystal, our comms and tech manager, designed some stuff today. So making sure that you have the nice swag that you need to help you feel confident. You like walk in there with your clipboard and your tote bag, and making sure that you know what the public comment process is in your locality, making sure that you have talking points about different parts of the agenda, if that would be helpful for you and for your people, and to help you figure out like how you can connect with people within your community to attend with you, because I think that can be the hardest part, right? But we do have a list of folks who live in some of these places. Our partner orgs have that. And we know that you have your own networks in your locality. And so help you figure out how to like leverage that. How do you get your homegirl to turn out? Because she don't go nowhere except brunch. But how do we get her to go to the county commission meeting in the evening time when it's not brunch? And I think that that'll be a thing that we can definitely talk more about. And so the toolkit will have like my information, my email and phone number so that we can text or email or talk on the phone, have a Zoom call or whatever. If you are interested in doing this in your locality to kind of talk about what you would need. Um, because I definitely think it's possible. And if you're like, Desiree, please just show up. I can also do that because I can do that if that is what will help you feel supported and make you feel confident in doing that. And so, yeah, I really hope that this toolkit will have everything that you need. I'm working on it to make sure that it has everything, which is why we don't have it tonight, but it is why you will have it next week when I send out this follow-up email. And so please be on the lookout for that. It'll have all this information that we've talked about today, um, as well as some other stuff about like how do you pick a meeting, when do they meet, how do you find the meeting times, all that's typically on their website. But if you need any help navigating that, you can always hit me up and I'm happy to help you navigate that. Um, I can facilitate because I know a part of the lobby day is trying to meet with your council person or your commissioner one-on-one. And I can help you try to facilitate that. Um, do some of that outreach, make some of those connections if I'm able to. Because I think that, it'll be super easy for you to email your commissioner and be like, "Hi, commissioner, I am a constituent and I would like to meet with you." But you are not a constituent of everybody on that commission. Like in spirit, yes, but like in practice, they don't see it that way. And so I can help kind of make those connections and see if we're able to help get you and your friends and your neighbors and your community members those 101 meetings with folks. So, does anybody have questions about that toolkit or about, any of that, all the words I just said? Cool. If anything comes up, you will, like I said, you'll be able to hit me up. I am around. We'll be able to talk more about, what it'll look like and what that would entail, where you live, because I know that, you may have not done this before. And so I want to help make this feel good for you. All right. Those are all the words that I had for you this evening. Now I want to check in with you. We've talked about a lot of things. We've experienced a lot and done a lot. So I want to check in. Do you have any questions about advocacy, about the RJ agenda, about Amplify, anything that we've talked about here tonight?